Hey guys, this is the Prep and Preacher channel. I'm Brother Tim and I'm so glad you're here. I hope God is truly blessing you. Hey, have you ever played the what if game? Well, that's what we're about to do, so stay tuned. As I said, this is the Prep and Preacher channel. I'm Brother Tim and I am hoping that God is truly blessing you right now. Hey, if it's your first time with us, man, I appreciate you stopping by. Man, hit that subscribe button down there, ring that bell. That way you'll get all the new videos as they're coming out. And guys, we got a bunch coming down the pike. Now, but before you subscribe, let me explain something. The platform we stand on is that we are pro-God. We are pro-life. We are pro-family. We are pro-guns, that Second Amendment. We are pro these United States of America. We are pro-military and pro-veterans, of which I'm one. And so if you don't like any of those, any one of them now, this probably isn't a place for you. As a matter of fact, I guarantee that there's another channel out there with your name on it that's better suited for you. And trust me, you're not going to hurt my feelings. Go on and go over there now. But for the congregation now, well, God bless you. Thank you for all the subscriptions and the likes and the comments. And always remember that you can leave prayer requests down in the comments. Or if you'd like a little privacy, you can email me. The email address is in the description. And you can email it to me. And I promise you, we pray for you. We believe in the power of prayer. So today I want to introduce you to a game I play all the time. It's called the What If game. And many of y'all have probably played this. If you're a prepper, I know you have. But it's what would happen if. And that's what prepping's all about. See, there's a difference between prepping and survival. Prepping allows you to survive, but you have to play the what if game. You have to look at different scenarios. And I call it doing an old programming trick that they taught us back when I was learning how to program in BASIC years ago. And it's an if-then statement. If this happens, then this is what is going to be needed. Then this is what we need to do. All right. As preppers, we need to play that game, what if, on a multitude of playing fields now. When I say this, fields, that incorporate the world, okay, the United States of America, where we live. And then us personally, our own personal what ifs. What if for the world could be, it could be a natural disaster like a solar flare or maybe a meteorite hitting Earth, even nuclear war, global nuclear war, or it could be a global financial shutdown. All of these could cross into the others also. You see, a solar flare could probably would affect the United States of America, and it would affect me or you personally. A nuclear war would affect the United States of America, being that we're one of the top nuclear powers, and that could affect me and you personally. Yeah, I hope you get the point here. And so each one of these disasters, though, they have repercussions on so many levels. All right. See, let's take a solar flare for an example. This is where the sun sends off a solar flare, which could cause an EMP, electromagnetic pulse, that could affect electronic equipment. And it's done it in the past. And there's reports of it back when we had telegraphs, that it would literally caught the lines on fire at certain things. And if we get one of these, you think of the lines we have today. All right, so a solar flare could and would affect the power grid and our communication structure. And it would cause a global financial shutdown because of information not being passed, all the zeros and ones out there. And that could lead to anarchy and could possibly lead to wars. It's a cause and effect is what's going on there. So see, that one event could cause a multitude of disasters in our lives. Now, it would be hard for us to work all the contingencies for a global disaster. But what I'd like to do is we need to look at the personal disasters that we could possibly face and work from there. Personal disasters happen all the time. It could be a financial disaster. such as losing your job. You know, that old adage is, what's the difference between a depression and recession? Well, a recession is when your neighbor loses their job, and a depression is when you lose yours, you know, but it could be that. Or it could be a natural disaster, as many of our brothers and sisters are experiencing right now in the Gulf with Ida coming through. So in looking at all these different threats, what would be some of the biggest threats we face, or the biggest threat that we face? And how could we use it as maybe the example to build on? Okay, so for me, I believe that would be a grid down scenario. I'm talking about electric grid totally shut down. You see, we've become so dependent on electricity, and there's very few alive today that know a time that there was without electricity in every home. And knowing what we know about the infrastructure of our grid now and everything that we've seen, there's a decent chance that this very well could happen. Not USA had reported sometimes back that once every 4 days, that a part of our nation's grid is attacked either by a cyber attack or by a physical attack once every 4 days. Think about that. I imagine it would scare us if we knew the real number of how many times that's happened. We've just seen in the last year how a cyber attack took down a pipeline for gasoline and caused gasoline shortages all over the East Coast, and some here even in Tennessee, just by shutting down that one pipeline. We've seen attack after attack after attack on our financial institutes. We've seen attacks on our cellular phone people. We've seen attacks, cyber attacks all over the place. And there's people that they live to attack and to mess up people's information. So when we look at the grid, we better not consider it safe, because it could be knocked down. It's very vulnerable. All right. So we must first think, when we think of grid down, I say let's look at a local shutdown, just like we saw with Hurricane Ida that's coming through. At the time of this, we're going to see the ramifications this evening here in Tennessee. Now, there was an article that came out today where it explained, I'll put it up here, and I'll put a reference in the bottom. The 911 emergency call system was knocked out in many of the areas, and they were telling them if you had an emergency to get to a fire station. Well, that's all well and good when you're running in a 100-mile-an-hour wind. But the 911 system was knocked out. They said that in that same article, it said it would be premature to speculate when power would be back on. But then a little later in the article, it said, but it could be weeks for some areas. I know with an ice storm with us one time, it was right at 14 days or 2 weeks before we got power back to our home. But we were on the long leg. We were way out from the power grid, so it took longer for us. Some people got it back, within a day or two. But we don't know, and they're saying that too. They don't know when it could be, and it could be weeks. Also in that same article, it talked about 18 public water systems were shut down, with over 300,000 residents were without water. Okay, that's because of the power down. See, a grid down affects so many things. And now that was just a localized outage. And I know for a fact there are crews coming in from all over the United States to aid down there in Louisiana, Mississippi, where they've been knocked out. And they're still saying it could be weeks out. Now, that's a localized area. So what would happen if the grid was taken out in a larger scale? Say it took out the eastern half of the United States, or it took out the complete United States. Folks, that would be catastrophic. And it would affect all walks of life. And it could be weeks or months to restore, possibly, if at all. When we talk about a widespread grid out situation, there are major considerations to take into account. All right, the hospitals, for instance. Well, yes, they have backup generators, and they're usually the first ones put back online, but they only have a small contingency of fuel to keep that hospital running. So you need to have a contingency plan for healthcare, for first aid in case of an emergency. Communications would be affected in a grid down. I'm told that after 48 hours, most cell towers would be without power. Their generators would either need more diesel or more fuel, or they need their batteries recharged. So communication would be out. Now, this may not seem like a big thing to you, and meaning you can't play Candy Crush, but that's not it. This will affect the financial institutes, the stores, you name it. People with Google Maps. I mean, there's so many considerations to take into effect here. Not just being able to talk or text on the phone or to see the latest TikTok or see my video, as a matter of fact. But when it affects the stores and the financial institutes, we've seen that. We've seen that happen. No plastic, taken. Be cash only. A lot of times they won't do the cash only because many of them can't count the change out. So we saw this after the ice storm. After the ice storm in Texas, we saw the water treatment plants were shut down for lack of power. There was articles about it. No potable water for the residents. So that's another contingency we have to look at. Another one, fuel. Most gas stations do not have backup power, or very limited at that, to run the pumps. And so if the electricity's out, well, then you can't pump your fuel. So another contingency. Hey, real easy. If you get down to half tank, get that thing filled back up next time you go by a gas station. So we see that gas stations can't operate, stores can't operate. There's no registers. Refrigerated food and frozen goods. Well, guess what? They're going to be gone in 24 to 48 hours because they're not going to hold the cool in there. And so much of life that we know can be changed within a few short days. As a matter of fact, there was an article. It was a British article, but it was talking about we're 4 meals or 9 meals away from anarchy, because when the power grid shuts down, well, then the supply of food is shut down, the supply of water is shut down, and people get a little grouchy when that happens. And so we could see widespread anarchy about it, as some people call it, the marauders, whatever it may be. So that's why we're going to start a series here on this channel looking at what if the grid goes down. And we're going to cover the necessities, the things that we need to prepare in order to make it through a grid down scenario so that we can be better prepared for it. Now, one reason I looked at the grid down scenario is it covers a gambit of the other disasters we could face. You see, when we look at what it takes to be prepared for a grid down and the preps it takes, like lighting, like food, like cooking the food, and also boiling water, all right, like alternative sources of power, heating, communications, sanitation. When we prep for these items, well, we're going to be ready for the other disasters that come along down the pike. Okay, so I hope that you find this series interesting as well as informative. And together we can play the what if game. All right, we'll look at some of the major elements we need to prep so that we can survive what literally may be right at our doorsteps today. And we're going to begin with the next video that you see coming from us, good Lord willing. We're going to be looking at cooking and boiling water, being able to cook and boil water in a grid down scenario. If you've made it this far, well, God bless you. And if you have any info to add, or if you want to look at a specific area, please do me a favor, drop a comment down below. All right, and I will try to address it and answer it. So, and if you like the direction that the site is going, the series is going, give me a thumbs up, man. Give me some feedback on that. So, we're going to start looking at grid down, the what if scenario. So, until I see you again, though, I pray God may richly bless you, and that you'll continue to stand in that gap. This is the Prepping Preacher, guys. I'm out of here.